Hello everybody, how's it going? I'm out in the shop today. It's the 26th of December. I'm just kind of goofing around. Let me show you a couple of things real quick. Work table the other day. Pretty happy about that. I've got my old, if you watched me in the very beginning, or if you've ever gone back and watched any of my older videos, you'll remember I used to use this old Ryobi mini lathe. And the problem is, from pulling the knob out and popping it back in, it just basically broke off. And this is hooked to a potentiometer on the other side. I had bought a new potentiometer the first time this happened, and I soldered it in and fixed it, and it ran again for a year and a half or so, and it finally broke loose. Instead of trying to fix it because the board's in pretty bad shape, I've gone ahead and picked up one of these inexpensive router speed controllers. I think I got it at Harbor Freight. I've had it for quite a while, and essentially that's what that is a potentiometer. So I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to pull the cap off here, and I'm going to rewire the motor to this router speed controller and see if I can use that as a potentiometer to adjust the speed up and down on the lathe. Now this lathe was not reversible, so I don't think it's going to be an issue. I'm toying with the idea of maybe filming that. It might be kind of fun, not really as a how-to, but more of just kind of, you know, here's one of the things I'm working on. The other thing is I've been building some shelves for my son, and I've got a list of a couple of items here. I got my darn router out, my router table, and fired it up, and I started putting an OG on the end of one of these boards, and the router shut off, and I go checking everything, and what I found, it took me a while, I got my gloves on because I've been staining, what I found, and it took a while, is on the router there's a button that you flip it one way and it locks the shaft so that you can remove and install new router bits, and then you flip it the other way, it unlocks the shaft and it spins. That switch, something's happened to it, because if I push it in, it'll run. But if I let go of it and it pops back out, it will not. So I need to take the bottom off that router and just take a look at that switch. There's probably some little piece of plastic in there or something, or a spring that is broken loose, and I'm hoping I can fix it. The other thing is, working on the shelves, I needed to sand them down a little bit. My darn little, I got a little DeWalt palm sander, it's an orbital sander, and the darn switch on it is loose. I must have really abused my tools over the years, so I've got those on my list. I'm going to get those taken apart, work on those, along with working on the lathe. And the ideas behind that lathe is I'm going to get rid of this. Let me show you this. I've got this massive jet bandsaw, and I've had it for quite a while. I fired it up once. I never use it. It takes a ton of room back here in the back corner. This is behind my lathe. My brother-in-law had given that to me, so I talked with him on Christmas Day and said, "Hey, look, would you like it back? I'd like to get it out of the shop because I'm not using it and it's taking up a lot of real estate." He told me to sell the darn thing, just sell it and get rid of it. He didn't want it, didn't want anything to do with it, just do whatever. So what I'm going to do is obviously clean it off. It's full of junk, and I haven't had it running in this shop, but I do have 220 right up there. I'm going to go ahead and pull it out around over here on this side of the lathe and get it plugged up, get it kind of cleaned up a little bit, get it running, because anyone who comes to see it is going to want to see it run. And I'm going to put that thing for sale and get rid of it. Now that's the old, that is a metal bandsaw, but you can put a wood blade on there and it'll cut wood like hot butter. So we're going to get rid of that. And the reason why is I'd like to come over here and let me flip you around again. In this back corner, I'd like to put like an L-shaped bench in there. And the reason why I want to put that bench is when I'm using my lathe and I want to finish a pin, sometimes the CA, the finish, takes a little bit of time to dry. So I thought, man, if I go ahead, I've got a #1 Morse taper mandrel saver for this little Ryobi lathe. If I go ahead and fix this lathe and I have a bench back there for it, I can pop the blank that I'm making off of the #2 or off of my turn between centers or whatever I happen to be using. I can pop it onto this lathe, finish it, it can sit back there and dry, and then my lathe is free for me to do other tasks. The second thing I want to do is I still have that old, when this lathe went down, I picked up an old Harbor Freight lathe that I used, and you've seen that in a lot of my earlier videos as well. I want to get that set up back there as a buffing station. So basically, I don't have to swap all that stuff out on my main lathe. I can just basically pop it on here, I can finish it, I can pull off the mandrel saver, turn right around, flip on a switch, and I can buff on the Harbor Freight. Not only that, but I would like to get some type of, I don't know, a pegboard system or some kind of a system back there, because I have all kinds of turning implements. I'm not talking about the tools necessarily. I have a lot of those, but with chucks and all that kind of stuff, and everything is just sort of laying around. I mean, look how messy this is. I've got my bits here. I've got my collet chuck. I've got all those boxes, all the stuff here. I mean, I've got, you know, all of my Jacob's chuck. I've just got all this stuff, you know, that's just laying around. That's the only place I have to organize it, and that doesn't work out real well. I've got this cabinet that has a bunch of stuff in it. I've got a toolbox down there with a bunch of stuff in it, and really, I just want to get that up somewhere that I can get to it quickly. It's organized. I have a place to put it when I'm done with it, and I can always find it and you know, use it, get to it, and use it as needed. And lastly, I want to show you what I just got finished while I'm wearing these gloves. What I just got finished working on here. I've got 2 shelves. What these are for, my son collects these little things called pops, and they're these little characters from all their favorite TV shows and movies, and they have little bodies and great big giant heads. They're kind of like bobbleheads, but they don't really bobble. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to mount one of those above. He has a double window in his room, and I'm going to mount one of them above his closet. He's got two 36-inch closet doors, and those will get mounted above on the trim above the closet and the window, and they're just shy of 4 inches thick, but he really doesn't need a lot because these things are, you know, they're not very big. They're just little characters, and he collects them. And what he wants to do is have someplace. He has a ton of them in the top of his closet, and he wants someplace to display them. So we'll mount those. What I'm going to do is we'll let it dry overnight. I'm getting ready to. It's about time to wipe the stain down. I'm going to go wipe it down. We're going to let them dry overnight, and then tomorrow I'm going to put a little polyurethane, a little semi-gloss polyurethane on them just to kind of protect them. And when that's dry, we'll just hang them in his room. I've already drilled some holes in them. I've got them pre-drilled, and I measured so that this is the trim that he has in his room, and it's 3/4 of an inch thick. And basically, I measured out 3/4 of an inch, and I drilled the hole right in the center. And I'll just go up and lay it on top, and I'll be able to drill right down into the trim to mount them above the window in the closet. Now let me show you what I did on the other side. I just put a little bit of an OG around the bottom, and I did that just to give it a little bit of decoration. I think it looks kind of nice, and that way when you look up, that's what you'll see as you're looking at the shelf with all the little characters on it. And that's pretty much it for me today. I'm going to get those wiped down, and then I'm going to go in and take a shower, call it quits. It's almost 8 o'clock. I'm ready for some dinner, running kind of late on that. And we're just going to call it quits for tonight. I'm hoping to get back out here maybe tomorrow and maybe do some of the work on some of the tools that have gone down. And I'll make a decision then if it's interesting enough to film it. I'll at least probably show it on this channel. I don't know about the other channel. We'll see. We'll see how it goes. But thanks for hanging out with me, guys. Really appreciate it. And we'll see you again real soon.